Picture this. September 1887. A young woman stands before a mirror in a cramped New York boarding house. She practices looking far away, her eyes vacant, unfocused, strange. Her name is Elizabeth Cochran, but the world will know her as Nellie Bly, and what she's about to do will change American journalism and mental health care forever. She's 23 years old. She's about to fake insanity so convincingly that 4 separate doctors will commit her to an asylum. And here's the terrifying part. When she stops pretending, when she starts acting completely normal, no one notices. Her sanity is interpreted as just another symptom of her madness. This is the story of 10 days that exposed a system built to break people, and the woman who broke it instead. To understand what Bly walked into, you need to understand 80s America. Mental illness wasn't treated. It was hidden, warehoused, forgotten. Asylums weren't hospitals in any real sense. They were dumping grounds. For the genuinely mentally ill, yes. But also for immigrants who didn't speak English. For women whose husbands wanted them gone. For elderly women with no family. For anyone, really, who made someone else uncomfortable. The system was easy to enter, almost impossible to escape. Blackwell's island sat in the East River, close enough to see Manhattan's glittering lights, far enough that the screams couldn't reach the shore. The island housed the city's unwanted, prisons, workhouses, and the women's lunatic asylum. In 1887, Joseph Pulitzer, the newspaper magnate who pioneered sensationalist journalism, had an idea. He wanted someone to go inside, to see what really happened behind those walls. He chose Nellie Bly. She was young, fearless, and had already made a name for herself at the Pittsburgh Dispatch. She'd started her journalism career by writing an angry letter to the editor, and got hired on the spot. Her pen name came from a Stephen Foster song. She was born Elizabeth Cochran in Cochran's Mills, Pennsylvania. But Elizabeth Cochran wouldn't fit on a byline that would make history. The plan was simple and insane. Bly would check into a boarding house under an alias. She'd act strange. Strange enough that someone would call the authorities. Strange enough that doctors would commit her. She practiced in front of a mirror for hours. The faraway look, the disoriented speech, the obsessive worry about lost trunks that didn't exist. It worked. Under the name Nellie Brown, she convinced the boarding house residents she was losing her mind. They called the police. The police called the doctors. Here's where it gets disturbing. 4 separate doctors examined her. 4 trained medical professionals. All 4 declared her insane and recommended immediate commitment. Not one of them suspected she might be acting. Not one asked deeper questions. They saw a woman behaving oddly, and that was enough. She was shipped to Blackwell's Island. She would later write, "The insane asylum on Blackwell's Island is a human rat trap. It is easy to get in, but once there, it is impossible to get out." From the moment she arrived, Bly saw horrors. The food was rotten, gruel with foreign objects floating in it, bread so stale it crumbled like dried dough, water that smelled of decay. The nurses weren't healers, they were enforcers. Patients who didn't shut up were beaten. Those who resisted were restrained, sometimes for days, sometimes indefinitely. And then there were the baths. Ice-cold water, forced immersion, administered as treatment. Women screamed. Some passed out. The staff called it therapy. Bly observed something even more chilling. Many women on the ward weren't mentally ill at all. Some simply didn't speak English. Immigrants whose confusion was mistaken for madness. Others were elderly women whose families had abandoned them. Women whose only crime was having no one left to care. The asylum made no distinction between madness and inconvenience. After a few days, Bly made a crucial decision. She stopped pretending to be insane. She dropped the act entirely and behaved exactly as she would in normal life. She talked normally. She acted normally. She made reasonable requests and had rational conversations. And here's the horrifying truth. No one noticed. The more sanely Bly spoke and acted, the more convinced the staff became that she was mad. Her reasonable behavior was interpreted as a symptom. Denial of illness proved illness. She later wrote, "The more sanely I talked and acted, the crazier I was thought to be." The system wasn't designed to release anyone. It was designed to justify keeping them. For 10 days, Bly endured. She documented everything, every beating, every spoiled meal in the night. She memorized names, noted patterns, built a case. Then, on day 10, the New York World sent a lawyer to extract her. The Asylum released her without question. The same Asylum that would never have let her leave on her own. On October 9, 1887, the New York World published her exposé. The headline shocked the city. The details horrified the nation. Bly's series, 10 Days in a Madhouse, became an immediate sensation. Readers followed her account with horror and fascination. They demanded answers. A grand jury investigation was launched almost immediately. Officials who had ignored conditions for years suddenly found themselves answering questions under oath. The results were staggering. The investigation confirmed everything Bly had reported: the abuse, the neglect, the sane women trapped among the mad. New York's Department of Public Charities and Corrections received an $850,000 budget increase, an enormous sum in 1887. That's roughly equivalent to $25 million today. Reforms followed. Conditions improved. Oversight increased. It wasn't perfect. The mental health system would struggle for another century. But the conversation had finally begun. Bly's exposé did something else, something that would outlast any single reform. It invented modern investigative journalism, the undercover investigation, the inside story. Before Bly, journalists reported what officials told them. After Bly, they went inside. They asked their own questions. They trusted their own eyes. They called it stunt reporting at first, a dismissive term for what women journalists did. But Bly's stunts exposed truths that traditional journalism had missed entirely. 2 years after her Asylum investigation, Bly took on an even more audacious challenge. She would attempt to circle the globe faster than anyone in history. She completed her journey in 72 days, 6 hours, and 11 minutes, beating the fictional record set by Jules Verne's Phileas Fogg. The world followed her progress with breathless attention. But it's the 10 days in that asylum that defined her legacy. Not the adventure, not the fame, the willingness to walk into darkness so others could see. Nellie Bly died in 1922 at age 57. By then, she'd been a journalist, a war correspondent, an inventor, and a factory owner. But obituaries led with the asylum. They understood what she'd done. One young woman, with nothing but nerve and a notebook, had changed how America treated its most vulnerable. So what can we take from this? First, the systems we build to help people can easily become systems that trap them. It takes someone willing to see from inside to expose the truth. Second, expertise isn't infallible. 4 trained doctors couldn't tell a sane woman from an insane one. They saw what they expected to see. We all do. And third, consider that the people we dismiss might have the most important stories to tell. Bly was a young woman in a profession that didn't take women seriously. She changed it anyway. If this kind of story interests you, the forgotten moments that shaped how we live now, hit subscribe. We put out new episodes every week, and there's always another story waiting. You might want to read Bly's original work. 10 Days in a Madhouse is available free on Project Gutenberg. Her voice is sharp, observant, surprisingly modern. And if you're ever in New York, consider visiting Roosevelt Island. That's what Blackwell's Island is called now. The asylum ruins still stand. Some things need to be seen to be understood. Think about what institutions you trust without question. Hospitals, schools, prisons, care facilities. Who's looking inside? Who's asking the questions no one wants answered? Investigative journalism still matters. It still exposes what power wants hidden. But it only works when people read it, share it, demand accountability from what they learn. Every reform started somewhere. Every change began with someone deciding to look when others looked away. Nellie Bly looked, and what she saw changed everything. That's the story of Nellie Bly and her 10 days in a madhouse, a 23-year-old who faked her way into hell and rode her way out, bringing the truth with her. In 1887, she was a young woman with a notebook and nerve. By 1888, she'd reshaped American journalism and forced a reckoning with how we treat the vulnerable among us. Some stories need to be told, some questions need to be asked, and sometimes it takes someone willing to walk into darkness, so the rest of us can finally see. Thanks for listening. I'm your host for History That Hits. Until next time. Keep asking questions.